We are just now wrapping up 2024 and had that fun job of recapping everywhere we went and how much we spent in each location so we could bring you the full total amount for the year.
Yeah, it's always fun to look back at what we got to do, what we got to see, where we traveled to. Is it fun to look back and see how much we spent? Well, sometimes it is, and sometimes not so much.
I kind of do like looking back because last year our goal was to try and save a little bit of money this year because we had an expensive year last year. So it was kind of fun to put all these numbers together and in hopes that we were going to come in a little bit lower than we spent last year.
So what better place to start our cost savings year than in Dublin, Ireland? And Dublin, Ireland is not cheap.
No.
We knew that going in, so we made some adjustments throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, we kind of combined Dublin. We knew we were heading already over to Europe, so we just had an advantage to be able to stop in the airport there and go see Dublin for like 5 nights. So glad we did, but yeah, it definitely cost us some money. After that, we headed to Antalya, Turkey. I had to start or get going on some dental work that I had previously started, and so we stayed there for just a little bit.
Yeah, and then from there, we've been there before, we loved it. From there, we hadn't been yet, so we decided to go to Fethiye, Turkey. Now, I think it's Turkey now, right?
Turkey.
The Turkey, the pronunciation has changed, so if we miss it a couple times here, we do apologize, but we loved Fethiye. We had a great time.
Fethiye definitely went down as one of my favorite locations, probably this last year. Absolutely beautiful area. We loved our time there, and it was one of those places that when we were ready to go, I wasn't ready to go. I really enjoyed it that much. So yeah, that was fun. Now from there, we headed over to Rhodes, Greece. It was nice because we were able to just take a ferry. So that was an easy couple-hour ferry ride over. So a nice, easy moving day.
It was an easy moving day. That also plays into our cost savings for the year, where we're not buying that ticket for a plane. We're just jumping across the water real quick, and it does save a lot of money.
Yeah. Now, Rhodes, we enjoyed Rhodes. It wasn't necessarily my favorite place. There were just some things about it. The old town's beautiful, but we did enjoy our time there, but probably didn't need a full month.
From Rhodes, we took an airplane to Crete. Now, the airplane was very cheap, not expensive at all, so we decided to go for it. In Crete, we did enjoy. We did like the island of Crete.
Yeah, we stayed in Hania,
Yes.
absolutely beautiful little area. We were there for just under a month, but yeah, we really enjoyed our time there. That is a place we could see ourselves going back to.
Jumped on another airplane from there, and we went to Budapest again. We had a great time in Budapest, lovely city, and we saved some money there too.
Yeah, that was our first time in Hungary, but yeah, we did really enjoy that city. It's a very large city, a lot to see and do. You kind of never run out of things to see and do. We had a park right near where we were staying that we absolutely loved, went there almost daily, would have a beverage, but yeah, that was a place that we could see ourselves. We understand the draw of Budapest as a place that people go to for long term.
Then from Budapest, we went back to Antalya for Carrie's dental work.
Yeah, we had to, the first or the second step was the last one when I was the second time there, to get an implant placed, and then you have to wait a stretch of time before they will then put the crown in there. So anyways, this was us going back there so I could finish up my dental work.
From there, we got to fly home, and we're always excited to go home.
Yeah.
It's always something we look forward to. The flight over was not cheap, but we ended up getting there, and we had a great time at home as well.
Yeah, and when we're talking about the flights here, we are going to be breaking down all of the costs. Right now, we just kind of want to break down for you what we did this year, so when you're hearing all the cost breakdown, you know what was included in that. So now we were home for about 5 to 6 weeks, and then we headed to Mexico, which is where we kind of are finishing out our year. And we started in Oaxaca. That's where we flew into.
Yeah, Oaxaca, known for their food. Now, this was our first time in central Mexico, and it was everything we expected it to be.
Yeah, it was a great introduction.
Yeah, everything you could think of, the bright colors, the food, the people. It was spot on.
Yeah. So now from Oaxaca, we went to Puebla. Now we were just in Puebla at a hotel for a week. We didn't really need that much time there, but it was a great little town. We really enjoyed our time there, made the most of it. Did some day trips from there. So yeah, we really enjoyed that.
From there, we took a bus up to Mexico City. We were in Mexico City for 10 days.
Yeah.
And that was a while for us.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people say they could spend a lot more than 10 days in Mexico City, and I'm sure you could. But for us, it was probably 5 days too many.
Yeah, I think we're is it 12 days
Was it
we
12
were there?
days?
Yeah. So it was too long for us. We're not big city people, and so we could have easily done that in 3 to 4 days. But luckily, we had a place that was inside, very nice, and so we enjoyed our time and we could get some work done. Next, we took a bus to San Miguel de Allende, and in that was to me an absolutely beautiful area. Fell in love with this town. Super just picturesque. I love those places where I want to pull my camera out all the time because it's just so pretty and you want to take a picture and capture it. Yeah, we enjoyed our time and we were there for 13 nights.
Yeah, we had a great place there, and Carrie's right. Every time I looked over at Carrie, she had her phone out snapping pictures. So yeah, she had her phone out all the time. Well worth it. And from there we jumped on a bus and went to Guanajuato, and again, Carrie had her camera out the entire time. It was that beautiful. It
was way more than we expected. We actually only had a couple days there because it was near the airport we were going to be flying out of, and so we were like, well, we want to see it, so we just allowed a few days. We could have absolutely traded the days we had in Mexico City and put those in Guanajuato because it was a beautiful city. We could have been there longer. Now from there, we hopped on a flight and headed to Merida. And in Merida, which is currently where we're wrapping up our time, we're spending a month. So this is kind of where we're getting all of our work done, getting ready for those holiday time at home. And we haven't finished the year. We're not wrapped up through 2024,
right.
But we know exactly everything's already been paid for. So we've already bought our ticket home. We already have everything paid for coming up to that point, and we know what we spend when we get home. So
and that
that's
always
why we're able to do
always
this.
feels good.
Yeah.
It always feels good when we have the year wrapped up and we know where we're at financially, so we can start getting ready for 2025. So we always start off with our highest expense, and that's always accommodations. Now, our accommodations changed the last third of the year, last quarter of the year or so, because we got away from that month-long stay at each place where you get that big discount. We got away from that for other reasons. So we did spend a little bit more money the last third of the year than we normally would have, but still our accommodations came in at $14,029.
So that would be an average of $1,169 per month. Now, during that time, this is 12 months, but during about 4 months of these, we are house sitting at home, so we don't have accommodation costs during that time. But we still always average our accommodations over the year because we do have a budget we try and stick within.
Right.
And by doing those house sits is what allows us to spend a little bit more in some of these locations that we're going to.
Right, so we always divide by 12. It's just the easiest way to do it. So our grocery bill, now we're big on the groceries. We like to go to the grocery stores, find that good grocery store wherever we're at. Carrie's a great cook, so she cooks at home, and I eat at home. Because she's cooking it, I get to eat it. The grocery bill for the entire year came to $4,228.
Yeah, we eat in a lot. And so our grocery bill tends to be a little bit higher, and I think when people look at that, I don't think they're going to consider that to be that high of a bill. I think it's pretty affordable. That comes out to $354 for the 12-month average. And so, $354 a month, we were spending that easily when we were home. So to us, that was pretty average and acceptable.
Yeah, that came in pretty close to the same as what we were spending at home. So that's something that, we were able to do because of those 4 months of accommodation costs that we didn't have to pay.
Next is our entertainment budget. Now, in our entertainment, this includes anything as far as if we pay to get into anything, any sites we're going to go see, any excursions we go on, but it also includes our eating out, and it includes our drinking out, which is commonly more what our entertainment involves. We go out, we grab a beverage, check out a rooftop bar, things like that. Right. So that's all combined in this budget. And that came to $3,486.
Yeah, that's $291 a month. And again, we feel that that's pretty reasonable.
It is pretty reasonable, and part of our entertainment budget, actually, this is an area where we spend more when we are at home. We tend to spend a bit more because we're getting together with friends, we're going out to eat. These are things we don't do a lot, plus the costs at home are pretty much triple of what we pay anywhere else. So this is kind of, in those areas is where we spend more. When we're on the road, we spend less than that.
Next on our list is our transportation, not including our flights. So this is buses, trains, Ubers, other forms of transportation besides our flights. And that came to $1,530.
Yeah, and that is an average then of $128 a month, which to us is pretty minimal. Now, we spent a lot this year, or a lot more this year, because we did move quicker through Mexico, so we had a lot of bus rides in there. So we had those. But yeah, it's all of our trains and everything when we're in Europe. We didn't have a whole lot of that this year, but we did have a few ferry rides.
Right.
Yeah, so it kind of adds up, but we just feel that $128, we're not paying for a car payment, we're not paying for car insurance. So that's pretty affordable.
Not paying for gas. And I will say that Uber, no matter where we're at, seems to be a lot less expensive than back home.
By far. The next big expense that we have is our health insurance. Now that comes in at $2,100 for the year for both of us. Now we both carry our insurance. Brian just recently made a change to where he's going to be carrying a different insurance when we're home. He has a policy at home now. So he's doing the same as I'm doing, where it's the safety wing when we're traveling, and then we can just cancel that when we get home. So that will start to save us a little bit more money as well.
Yeah, that's $175 for the couple per month. Now this is going to fluctuate. This is one of those items where, you may not get the same thing. It might be a lot more, it might be less. But it's one of those things where you really have to do your own research on this, because we can get the same flights, we can pay the same for our accommodations as you do, but the insurance, it's going to fluctuate quite a bit.
It fluctuates because of your age.
Yes.
It fluctuates so much on your age. And so we know that that's going to continue to go up. It also, our one at home fluctuates based off of income. And so that can fluctuate each year as well. So, this is one of those variable areas that we will always see kind of going up and down.
This is what we pay.
Hopefully it goes down sometimes, not just up.
Now we do have miscellaneous costs. Those things that just pop up out of nowhere, that they're not unexpected, but they are things that you don't plan for every month. Still got to get them. When we go home, we replenish some of our supplies, and that all comes to $1,090.
Yeah, so that's an average of $91 a month. So averaged out, when we're on the road, we don't spend a whole lot on miscellaneous. There's not a lot of things that we need, because we kind of do our stock up when we're home of all of those basic products. So the majority of that miscellaneous money is spent when we are home, except for Brian's random hat he buys.
Yeah, I buy random hats, and then they fall apart because I don't spend very much money on them. Then I throw them away.
And next we have our data plans for our phones. That came to $268. Now a lot of this last year, when I was looking back at the months, pretty much the first 6 months of the year, Brian did not have data on his phone. He just chose not to travel with it, because his phone, he had to get the SIM card on arrival, and it is such a hassle. And I had gotten to where now I can have the eSIM in my phone. So a lot of this is low because we only had eSIM in one phone for 6 months of the year. And then the rest, then we both had the eSIM.
Yeah, I got cheap. I just decided I don't want to hassle with the SIM card, so I didn't have anything. I just used Carrie's phone if I needed to use a phone. And that came to $22 a month.
For any of you who have not used an eSIM, it really is the way to go when you're traveling, because it just is working on arrival. As long as you get it all installed, ready to go, as soon as you land, you have phone coverage, and it's so affordable. Now on average, we spend about $20 a month maybe, would be our average when we're on the road. So it is definitely the way to go if your phone can handle it.
Something that we do a lot of to entertain ourselves that we do not include in our entertainment budget is our Netflix. We watch a lot of Netflix. We have to watch our shows. It's something we do in the evening time after we eat dinner, just like we would at home. To use that Netflix, we also have to have our VPN. So those two things we have to have. The VPN is an absolute must when you're traveling, and for that we spent $306.
Yeah, like you said, it's an absolute must. You know, you have to have it not only to use your Netflix for your banking, for everything that you're on the road traveling and needing to do. You will find very quickly you will not have access to a lot of that stuff, and that's a pretty helpless feeling when you are across the world from where you are. And so anyways, just make sure you get it. The VPN is like $3 of this amount of money, of the monthly amount, which the average of the monthly for us is $26. So $3 of that to stay protected and also have access to our Netflix shows is well worth it.
So our total living costs for 2024, traveling the way we do, came to $27,057.
Yeah, you know, I was happy to see that number because I thought that was a great number, and then realizing we still have to add our flights to that.
Yeah, we're not done yet.
Yeah, we keep our flights separate because we have a different monthly budget for our flight costs than we do for all of our living costs. That way we kind of can say, here's how much we'll spend on flights for the year, here's how much we spend on everything else. You know, we got to fly where we're going to fly. So that kind of, we want to make sure that, I guess, budget is protected in a sense. So now we're going to kind of share with you our flights and where we spent money on those.
So we kicked the year off flying to Dublin. Now we had to get to Europe. So where are we going to fly? We could fly into a certain number of hubs that are direct from Seattle. We chose Dublin so we could stay an extra few days and enjoy Ireland. That flight came to $1,126 for the two of us.
Yeah, now this was an expensive flight. Normally we can get over to Europe for a lot cheaper than this. It was just time of year. It's the way it worked out. We had a few really high expense flights this year, so no way around that. But one of the benefits of flying into Dublin was they did have a direct flight from Dublin to Antalya. So that was our next stop, and that was $196 for that flight, just on a flight on a budget airline.
Yeah, it was very budget airline, I would like to add.
That was on EasyJet, and EasyJet, we had to fly EasyJet a few times. They're one of the main airlines that flies out of Antalya. They're the oddest airline. They clap. People clap on arrival. People get out of their seats as soon as the flight lands and you're on the tarmac.
You're rolling down the runway.
They're standing up, getting their luggage out. They don't care what the announcements are. It is just and we've flown them a few times and we've had the same experience each time.
It's kind of fun to watch. Actually.
It's one that we avoid now at all costs.
Our next flight for the year was from Rhodes to Crete. That flight cost us $213.
Now on top of that $213, we did have a baggage cost, and this was one of those baggage fees that you could not work around.
Right.
They actually did not allow you to check luggage at all. You had to pay to check your luggage, so it had nothing to do with our away luggage and not being able to get it on the flight. And that to check our luggage was $84. So ended up being a pretty expensive flight to get to Crete.
Now, when we were in Crete, we were trying to figure out where we were going to go next because we hadn't really planned it out yet. We wanted to stay somewhere in Greece, but we were finding out rather quickly that we weren't going to be able to do that. It was just way too expensive that time of year to stay really any of the options we wanted to do. We were thinking about going back to Turkey. Well, where we wanted to go in Turkey was also really expensive for that time of year. So we did the Google flights and we found that Hungary, Budapest was our best option, and that flight was only $237.
Yeah, that was one of those huge benefits of using Google Flights, and just you know where you're at, look where you can fly from there, and you can sometimes find some really great deals, and we were happy we came across that deal. Now from Budapest, we had to fly back to Antalya, get that dental work done, and that flight was $398. Once again, the prices this time around, this year, we really saw the prices in our flights go up.
Now, Antalya to Seattle, that's a long day. That's a long flight, and they do not give you a break on how much it's going to cost. That flight cost the two of us $1,412.
Yeah, that was a hard one to swallow.
Yes.
I did so much research over probably at least a couple weeks, maybe longer than that, trying to figure out because we usually will hop to a key hub airport and then we'll hop home, and it saves you considerable. There was no hopping. It was just the time of year. It was just expensive. So now after our time at home, we headed to Oaxaca, and that flight was $670, much easier to swallow, and it was a nice short flight.
Yeah, that was an easy flight. It was from Seattle to Mexico City, and then we had a connector from Mexico City to Oaxaca. Now, we did have a baggage fee on that flight of $70.
Yeah, and that was one where we chose actually
Yes.
to check our bags. There were a few things that I knew I wanted to take. We knew we possibly were really pushing the weight limit if we were to get weighed. And so we just kind of just bit the bullet and paid for that baggage
Yeah,
fee.
sometimes the hassle of trying to figure out, I'm gonna be overweight most every time anyway, but I'm so close. This time I knew I was gonna blow it out of the water, so we just decided to check.
Okay, and then we flew from Guanajuato to Merida. All the other areas we just took buses to, so we finally found our way to Guanajuato, and that one was $192.
$192, no, that's real easy. There are a lot of times we would skip that flight and take a bus, but the bus was actually like a 10-hour.
It was way longer.
10-hour deal.
Yeah,
It was even longer than that.
It's a long ways.
Yeah, so we did that. We did the flight within the country. So our next flight, now, we kind of went back and forth on where we were going to fly home from. And ironically enough, the least expensive place for us to fly home from was Cancun. And Cancun is direct to Seattle. So we're jumping on that.
Yeah.
That's going to be something that's going to be another easy flight. We love these direct flights. And for us, a 4 or 5 hour flight is a short flight. So that is something that we don't mind spending $474 on.
No, that was, I was very happy to
Yes.
see $474. That was really nice and affordable. So our flight total for this year was $5,072, which kept us under our budget, or right about our budget. Now, this is our last year where we were coming home twice a year. Going forward, we'll be coming home in 3 times a
Right.
year. We're just starting that right now. And now our budget, we have moved it up to $6,000 just because we will have more flights that we'll be taking. But I was happy to see the $5,072. That really, especially with some of those big flights in there.
Yeah, and we did kind of make the decision to come to Mexico based on our flight costs, because it is less expensive to fly down here from Seattle. So that is something that we did consider. So our total spent in 2024, we're going to start with those living costs. Just to remind you, we spent $27,057 on our living costs.
And then our flights were $5,072.
That's $32,129 total.
Which, when we heard that number, we were very happy with, because that was lower than our last year's costs. And so we hit our goal of cutting our costs. Would have been nice to cut them a little bit more, but I think that there were some, pretty high expense areas in there. Yeah, we did what we could do.
It was pretty close to 2023. 2023, we traveled through Italy, Germany, Czech Republic a lot faster. So that's where those bigger costs came in for that year. So we are happy with our grand total, and we plan to beat that next year.
We hope to. We'll see. We have some big plans for next year. Now that cost per couple is $16,065. So, when you consider complete living costs, traveling the world full time, $16,065, I think that's a pretty affordable price.
I think it's a pretty good price. Now, we don't have to remind you, you understand that we don't have to pay for utilities, we don't have a car payment, we don't have gas and insurance and all those other things that we would normally have. So when that cost sounds really low, that's probably why.
Now, one thing we didn't mention earlier when we were going through, say, our costs and our accommodations, this would be the only thing that would be covered in there, is accommodations. We go on kind of a vacation where YouTube's not involved in. We don't film it, and that's one of the reasons why we're flying out of Cancun as well, is that the flights were cheaper out of there, and we were like, hey, let's go hang out in Cancun for a little bit, spend 6 nights at a little all-inclusive, and just kind of enjoy ourselves and relax before we head to the cold of winter in Western Washington.
Yes, I'm excited for that. My daughter and son-in-law are coming to stay with us, so it's going to be Margaritaville.
Yeah,
I'm hoping.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
All right, well, we hope that this was just informational to you. If you are looking at traveling full time and wondering what those costs are, we do our monthly breakdowns, and those are really interesting, but sometimes it's better to see the full year's cost and truly where we went, what we got for that money. And it kind of gives you that, number to work with to see if it works into your budget.
So if this video was beneficial for you and you did get something out of it, we'd appreciate a thumbs up. We'd love for you to join us and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.